So today we're going to talk about something that I've been researching for a while. It's kind of been growing out of several talks and articles that I've written over the past several months. Some of you may have been on the phone call that we had back in November where I talked about national security risk of emerging technologies. And this talk kind of grew out of that, where specifically we're focusing more on how technology can be used to develop new types of weapons and how other countries are basically in competition with the United States and how we're in competition with them and how the scientific developments of these new technologies is spurring militaries and other political types of organizations to want to basically keep up with the Joneses in terms of having cutting edge technology that can be used for military potential. So if you will skip ahead 2 slides and just go to the one where we have a whole bunch of different paragraphs here. The first sentence will say the central question is therefore. So we're going to talk about why is this such an issue? Why are we actually having this call today about emerging technologies and weapons? So this isn't a new concept. If you look historically, any time a new technology or a scientific breakthrough has been discovered, it almost always leads to the question of whether or not it can be turned into a weapon. You look at where quantum physics got us in the 20th century. You look at all the development with Manhattan projects. During World War II, we had nuclear technology that was obviously developed and weaponized. You look at World War I going back even further. You look at developments with chemical weapons programs and the use of the fluid gas that we saw on the front lines in World War I between the Germans and the British, in occupied France. So it's not a new concept, but as the pace of technology in the 21st century has really, kind of moved ahead further, I think, than any other period that we've seen in history, it's really becoming more of an issue because the potential that we have, not with only how science itself is being democratized, where so many more people have access to resources, universities, to other, sites, internet sites, things like that. But also, the destructive power is so much more, I think, problematic in terms of what we have seen in the past and now with some of these new technologies that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. So there have been several reports that have talked about the potential for emerging risk and security, militarization, weaponization of technologies. One of the things that we really have to keep in mind is, it's not just us, the United States, that are developing these technologies and looking at military applications. There's also other countries. So as we not only develop our own weapons, but how do we mitigate the same type of weapons that other countries are developing? So, of course, you can see how this back and forth action can really spur a new type of arms race. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a few pictures. These are the technologies we're going to focus on today, particularly 3D printing, artificial intelligence, synthetic biology and biotechnology, and nanotechnology. I'll dive more into these in a little bit here, but I want to just highlight these in particular. These always make the front covers of all the kind of buzz technologies, what everybody's doing these days, where all the money is going. But in terms of the longevity, nanotechnology is kind of been around since really the 50s. Richard Feynman first postulated the idea, and it's kind of developed ever since. Really in 2000, with the National Nanotechnology Initiative in the United States, you saw vast amounts of money being poured into nanotechnology research, including probably about $5 billion just from the Department of Defense alone, looking at military applications of nanotechnology. Synthetic biology is kind of one of their newer ones. You've seen mentions of synthetic biology or the potential all the way back to the very early 1900s. But I'd say in the past 5 to 10 years, we've seen a lot of advancement in the field, and we'll talk about who's leading the charge in that. Artificial intelligence, using algorithms and complex machines to develop basically an assimilation of human intelligence. This is becoming probably one of the most important and potentially deadly or catastrophic technologies in terms of militarization, and we'll talk more about why that is in in a few minutes. And then 3D printing has so many applications for so many different fields, but I think this is one that's really being overlooked a lot. We've done a lot of work at HDI Act looking at the possibilities of 3D printing weapons, especially with some of the new polymers, and it's very possible. Last August, actually, TSA agents at Reno Airport detained somebody with a 3D printed weapon in their bag. The only way they detected it is because it was loaded, so the metal bullets flagged on the X-ray. Otherwise, they would have never found it. So talking about these, there are many other things you can print besides small handguns, and we'll talk about what's possible here in a little bit. If you will go to the next slide, you'll see a table and just some more detailed descriptions about the technologies that I mentioned. So I just want to point out the fact that each one of these, has multiple applications in other fields, and then within defense even, we have more than one application. But this is just to kind of highlight what I think are some possibilities, some things to kind of get you thinking about what we could do, how these technologies could be used. So the 3D printing, right, we have these machines that basically can have one layer of material at a time, can get very complex shapes that you can't get from milling or anything like that. You can actually print weapons, like I mentioned. We'll talk later. You can print very complex things like missiles. But I think one of the biggest applications is this remote manufacturing concept, where you can have elements in the field, you can have people on ships, where you can actually print replacement parts, you can print other things on demand. So just decreasing the amount of time it takes to get resources into the field, that's a huge boost to how fast and agile a force can be. If you look during World War II with like the German blitzkriegs, they were moving across Europe, but they had to stop at a certain point because they ran out of supplies, right? With additive manufacturing, 3D printing, you wouldn't even necessarily have to worry about that anymore. You could bring the 3D printers with you, so as troops are on the move, they're printing what they need. They don't have to worry about supply chains. So just think how that really can impact and change the pace of combat. Artificial intelligence. This is the big rage right now. Lots of private companies, IBM, right? We have Watson, Jeopardy champion, beat a whole bunch of other Jeopardy champions. There's Google is developing a lot of artificial intelligence. Some really interesting developments there. Department of Defense has been looking at AI for several years. DARPA has several different programs specifically just focused on AI. The problem with AI is that we're not the only ones developing this. We know that the Russians and the Chinese have very strong programs looking at the development of artificial intelligence and weapon systems, and we'll talk more about that later on. Biotechnology, synthetic biology, I'm going to kind of combine those together. So we're talking about the manipulation of biological systems. We can use this for anything to actually make materials using biomimicry, using systems that exist in nature, maybe tweak a little to develop some sort of critical material. We can also take engineering principles and develop new types of organisms, or to alter existing types of viruses and bacteria. So you can imagine the potential for new types of bioweapons that we've never had to face before. And finally, nanotechnology, the manipulation of things at an extremely small scale, right, 1 to 100 nanometers, somewhere in that range. This has been an interest for Department of Defense really since the mid-90s, but really since 2000 is when a lot of money has been poured into looking at how nanotechnology can enhance, existing and traditional types of weapons, but how it can also be used to create new types of weapons. We're also looking at ways to mitigate weapons, new types of sensors being developed, new types of material, body armor, things like that. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see a graph, and we're going to start to get a little bit more detailed here in terms of military spending and how these technologies are really kind of sparking a new arms race. So these are the top 10 defense spenders in the world. You can see the United States is at the top, quite well entrenched. Following closely behind China, United Kingdom, India, and Saudi Arabia. Russia, for the first time in many years, has fallen out of the top 5 world leaders in defense spending. But they're kind of retweaking their approach, and we'll talk a little bit more about what they're doing. But they're trying to get away from just spending money on more traditional types of warfare. They're actually kind of using the Department of Defense's DARPA model to develop things that they want to see building a foundation now for technologies they want to see in 2025 to the 2030 range. So they're really looking at a midterm strategy here. All right, if you go to the next slide, we're going to talk about some of the challenges with these technologies that I mentioned. So just the break so everybody can kind of catch up. And then if you want to move on, you'll see a picture of China and a picture of Russia on the next slide. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how this all fits together with the Department of Defense strategy and a long-term outlook. So last year, Secretary Work of the Department of Defense basically said that it's not really so much about, the threats, military threats of other companies, but it's really what he calls a pacing competitor, right? Countries that are investing vast amounts of research dollars into defense, into national universities, into state-owned companies, and how that research and that trend is really pushing their research enterprises and development enterprises to be on par with the United States. And actually, there are some experts who believe that China, that their military is in parity with the United States. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And if you look at just kind of overall some of the Chinese military programs, with their Chinese research and development programs in general, we have the 863 program, which kind of is a general program that uses advanced technologies in a variety of different fields. Some of the priorities in this program are nanotechnology and artificial intelligence, and to some degree synthetic biology. But synthetic biology really is the kind of primary technology, if you will, for the 973 program, which is another similar program. Well, these two programs are really leading the charge in terms of advancing developments in emerging technologies in other fields. A lot of these developments can translate into military and defense work and weaponization. Russia is another one that is really spending a lot of money in different areas. There's a state-owned organization called Rusnano, which the sole purpose is to commercialize nanotechnology. But back in 2012, President Putin had basically come up with the idea of having a Russian version of DARPA. And so he laid the groundwork for what is now the Russian Foundation for Advanced Research Projects. There are currently somewhere around 50 projects. They range in a whole bunch of different areas, but some of the focus points are artificial intelligence and hypersonic weapons, among a number of other things. So these are really the major competitors, I think, in the United States right now. And, with the exception of Russia, when you look at the budgets, the United States and China are 1 and 2. If you go to the next slide, we're going to drill a little bit more down into artificial intelligence. You'll see a pie chart and a picture of a gun. We'll talk about this here. So artificial intelligence is one of those things that has been kind of the core of the Department of Defense's third offset strategy. So the pie chart shows the different areas of the third offset strategy. As you can see, the one I kind of pulled out there, the deep learning systems, that's really the heart of artificial intelligence, kind of developing these complex algorithms to develop and create these types of weapon systems. So what DoD is really hoping to do is to create weapons platforms, whether they're ships or drones or things like that are autonomous or semi-autonomous. But DoD realizes that there are some challenges with that. So there's a directive that was issued in 2012 that basically states that no weapon system can fire on a target without authorization from a human user. So DoD is very much in line with creating this paradigm that they call human in the loop. So even as these different technologies are being developed with artificial intelligence, machine learning, autonomous systems, it's really just the machine enhanced human operators, kind of what they want. The problem with this approach is that while the United States is still very much trying to keep that human in the loop, other countries aren't focused on that. They don't care. They want the fully autonomous, fully thinking Terminator kind of weapon, right? So you look at what some of the developments that the Chinese have, they've actually just done some sea trials on a unmanned boats that can navigate um, down small rivers. And then also, I think in 2016 there was a Chinese state-owned consortium that developed a fully autonomous drone. So these are some of the challenges when you kind of have these two different paradigms where everybody is looking at artificial intelligence and weapon systems, but you have some people who still want to keep a person involved and some people don't. Um, Part of that challenge is also mitigating against these threats, right? If you have a person who's still operating a semi-autonomous drone, but you're fighting a drone from, let's say, Russia that is fully autonomous, it's going to be a lot more faster, agile, right? So how do you keep up with that? So to go to the next slide, we're going to shift gears a little bit here and talk about synthetic biology. So as I mentioned, synthetic biology is using engineering principles to kind of redevelop natural systems, right? And so there's any number of things you can do with this. Um, the big thing that I think Department of Defense right now is looking at how can you manipulate these systems to create critical materials, to obviously look at weapons, but maybe you can create less virulent strains of things, right? If you can isolate agents, how do you tweak those? Um, Again, the rest of the world isn't necessarily thinking the same way. So, in terms of the United States, this is one of the few areas where it's a medically related or biologically related idea or concept. It's not really being led by the traditional agencies, like you usually think National Institutes of Health, but it's actually DARPA who's leading the charge of the federal government on synthetic biology research. In 2014 alone, they spent $100 million. Not to be outdone, the United Kingdom is also sinking a substantial amount of money into synthetic biology research. So their Defense Science and Technology Laboratory, over the past several years, has actually spent about $5 million looking at synthetic biology and how it can be used in defense systems. Back in, I think, 2013, National Academy of Sciences that published some information about synthetic biology, and this is a plan you see on the right-hand side out of China. This is where they want to take synthetic biology for the next 20 years. So it's a very well thought-out plan. So these are the sorts of things that other countries are doing. So it's not just us anymore. As I said, it's really everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? If you will go to the next slide, and we're going to talk about nanotechnology, and you'll see some countries with some maps up here. So I think these are in particular the United States and China because it was relatively easy to find some information about them, and I picked Iran because I think in some ways they've kind of been overlooked for their capacity in nanotechnology, what they've been doing. So going all the way back to 1995. Vice Chairman of Joint Chiefs, David Jeremiah, had said that applications of molecular manufacturing have greater potential to change the balance of power than even nuclear weapons, right? And I think you got a lot of people listening and paying attention when he said that. Not to be outdone, less than a year later, Sun Balin, of the Chinese Academy of Military Science, had written an article about nanotechnology weapons, and so basically complementing the American idea, right? That nanotechnology is probably like the next generation of weaponry here. So you've really seen this kind of give and take, this pushback, if you will, between the United States and China in terms of nanotechnology development. Both countries have very robust and broad nanotechnology enterprises. The Chinese have invested a considerable amount of money into nanotechnology research, and so has the United States. The dark horse, if you will, has been Iran. So in 2016, Iran actually moved way up in terms of its capacity to do nanotechnology research. So now they're sixth in the world, just outside of the United States, China, Russia, United Kingdom, and I think Germany round off the top five. So they're really catching up. They've established a variety of nanotechnology research centers at many of their universities. There's a center in Isfahan, which is also the center of their nuclear production. So, it's kind of unclear exactly why they chose that location, but I'll let you draw the conclusions. So if you want to go to the next slide, you'll see a table. We're going to talk about 3D printing. So I really try to focus on some of the broad aspects here, but these are some of the countries who are leading the charge in terms of 3D printing applications in defense and military research. So, United States, we've been printing 3D printing missile components for a while. There's also interest in having troops who are forward deployed, on the front lines, but other austere environments, having 3D printing capabilities. Like I mentioned before, an army could move so much faster, but then have to wait for the supply chain to keep up. So I can print what you need as you go. China has been looking at replacing parts for ships. What a great concept, right? You throw a 3D printer on a ship, you're out in the middle of the ocean, you print replacement parts, you print anything that you need. Russia has actually been working on 3D printing bullets. So there's been a lot of advances in different kinds of technologies with that. And then the last two, the United Kingdom and Israel have actually been looking at how not only can you print components of drones, but can you 3D print the drone itself? So there's a research in the United Kingdom who is looking at using 3D printer platforms with an integrated component, so you can have circuitry and metal and polymers that you need to actually print an entire drone. So the Israelis have done a lot of research with American assistance in this area as well. So as I said, I think 3D printing is one of those technologies that's kind of been looked over, and I think it's something we probably need to pay a little bit more attention to. Two more interesting developments that I think are worth mentioning. NASA is developing a 3D printer, working on developing a 3D printer that could actually use lunar soil to create different types of components or building materials, right? They've also been looking at ways where they could use soil from Mars. The idea is that once you got astronauts to Mars, you don't want to bring a lot of stuff with you. So can you use something, can you develop something that's going to use the available resources you have, right? So that also begs the question, if you do eventually develop this type of technology where you can use lunar or Martian soil, can you just do that here in the world somewhere right on Earth? So can you just sit somewhere in the desert and use sand eventually to print whatever you needed? So if that technology gets developed, you can kind of see how that might really be a game changer. These state-sponsored or kind of non-state actors now, as technology gets more developed, it becomes more expensive or less expensive and more readily available, and it can use any kind of available resource. You can virtually print anything you needed. So what a game changer that would be in terms of defense posturing and applications. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see the technical inquiry service at the top. So before I talk a little bit about what HDI can offer, I just want to kind of wrap things up. Normally I have a slide where I talk about how do we mitigate some of these problems, but in this particular case, this is one of those things that it doesn't have any simple answer. I think just as many things that are being developed in terms of weaponry can also use those same technologies as mitigation. DARPA actually just posted something recently where they just developed, it was a vehicle, I can't remember if it was a program or if it was a vehicle itself that could actually counter the movements of a fully autonomous drone. So these types of technologies are being developed. But still we have a long way to go, and I don't even think that we've begun to understand the capacity, the capabilities of what some of these new technologies can do. When you look at biotechnology, there are several researchers who have investigated and recreated strains of the 1918 pandemic that killed hundreds of millions of people worldwide. And then not too long ago, in the Netherlands, there were researchers who altered the bird flu virus, and they actually published their work. I think it was in Nature. So these things are very real. They're happening. It's quite a challenge to figure out how we stop some of these things from happening, because you don't want to stop the progression of science and technology, but you also don't want to create things that we can't take back, right? So That's why I don't really have a mitigation slide here. I think it's a really good question for an open discussion. So just very briefly, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about what HCIAC has to offer. So there's two services that we really can offer to our federal academic and industry partners and clients. So we have a technical inquiry service where we can provide up to 4 hours of free research on a question as long as it relates to one of our 8 focus areas. So if you're getting ready to start a project, if you're kind of investigating maybe a policy issue, you're got some advanced research that you're looking into, or maybe you just have a challenge and it fits into one of our areas, you go to our website, you can fill out the inquiry form, and we'll be more than happy to pull some research and work on that question for you. If something is more challenging than just a 4-hour answer, which a lot of things in life are, we also offer a core analysis task vehicle. This is a pre-competed, pre-awarded contract vehicle. So we are able to facilitate the transfer of funds from government agencies. We have a number of experts within HCIAC who can work on projects. We also partner with academic and industry partners. So any capability that we would need to assist, we have access to. We also have an extensive subject matter expert network that we can reach out to. So a couple caveats for these types of projects: they have to be completed within 1 year, and they have a ceiling of $500,000. So these are proof of concept type projects that are quick turnaround. Maybe you just want to see if something is going to be feasible before you invest a lot of money. So these are kinds of projects that we are really focused on with this CAT vehicle. If you go to the last slide, you'll see my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me at any time. You can call me or email. I typically respond to both relatively quickly. And with that, I thank you all for your time, and I'll be more than happy to take any questions you have.
Okay, folks, I'm going to unmute the line. If you do have a question or comment, please identify yourself and your organization. Stand by, everyone.
The conference is now in talk mode.
Okay, so questions or comments? Any questions or comments out there?
Hi. Sorry, go ahead. Okay, I'll go first. This is Diane from National Defense University. Thanks for the talk. I appreciate the dialogue on emerging technology. And in regard to synthetic biology, I think in addition to the work that DARPA is doing, I'm glad you pointed that out. I mean, I think a lot of what's driving synthetic biology now is happening in industry, which is actually completely separate from the federal government, and people who are trying to innovate things and make products and so forth. And a lot of the capability for doing gene sequencing and the things that are needed to drive synthetic biology, we actually don't have those capabilities hardwired in federal government. And I wondered what you thought about perhaps building some infrastructure within DoD to do synthetic biology, i.e. big sequencing, big informatics, and what's needed to do that. Over.
That's a good question. Thank you, Diane. Actually, I listened to a webinar you gave last fall that you talked about some similar things. So it's very nice to talk to you. I know DARPA, they have a program called Safe Genes where they're looking at mitigating, what happens if biotechnology goes wrong. I think they're looking at some of the gene editing problems. Now, I don't know what type of infrastructure does exist. I think, and this is just me talking, not on behalf of anybody else, but if we are aware of these challenges and potential issues that exist, using synthetic biology to develop whatever it may be, the only way to really counter that is to understand synthetic biology and have the resources to counter that. So if we don't have the infrastructure available, then we're not going to be able to adequately meet those challenges. So I think that I've said that answer in a big enough way to where I don't implicate anybody or anything.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks for your response.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Greg, this is Kyle Mason from Army Intelligence of the Pentagon. And, I didn't realize that was Diana at the U, but I'll never let somebody from NDU speak before me again. Yeah, I just want to let you know that based on your comments and your slides, even as you were speaking, I forwarded this to another organization I'm part of, the U.S. Technology Leadership Council. I don't know if you're aware of them, but potentially you'll get an invite from them to reprise this. I do have two questions for you. One, I was very interested in your man in the loop discussion, and that's been a big discussion in the Army, particularly at our Unified Quest, our annual exercise series. So the question is, what do you think the prospects are for a change, a very foundational change in that policy for our country? And then if you take that one, I do have one more for you.
Sure, no, thank you. That's a great question. So actually, if you look at, there's a recent report that came out that said there are probably somewhere around 280 weapon systems that currently exist in the world that are based on some form of artificial intelligence. And majority of those use artificial intelligence to develop homing systems. And so if you look at kind of the trend, and I've read some stuff, I don't know, I know the official DoD doctrine is to keep the human in the loop, but I've read some other sources that have said even though DoD is really trying to do that, they're not really doing a very good job at it, that a lot of these systems being developed are, not just DoD, I think it's within the world, are really less and less human in the loop designs. So I think it's just a matter of time to where that is either going to be impractical or maybe even an obsolete solution. But I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of...
Yeah, it does. And you know what that resonates with? We had an event last year hosted by TRADOC. Peter Singer was one of our speakers, and he said when he was researching for, when he was writing Ghost Fleet, without even doing exhaustive research, that he felt that he had identified 23 systems in our own inventory that violate that rule. So he said, it's something that we say that we do, but pragmatically, we're already well past that. The second question, and I'll try to be neutral in the way I ask that, but this talk, but even more so your history, and Diane will probably be interested in this too. What interaction have you had with CDC, and what's your opinion of the job that they do vis-a-vis the things that you talked about here?
That's a good question. So I've worked with CDC in the past on other projects, not with HDI Act, but in my previous role. I would have to do a little bit more digging to see if they're looking at kind of a threat of biologically engineered pathogens. That I don't know. I know the level of work that they do for kind of what you would consider a more traditional bioweapon or agent, seems to be relatively adequate. I was part of a project that the National Health Security Preparedness Index that the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation now has, but originally it was a CDC funded project. And it took a variety of different measures and created a composite index to look at how well prepared the United States is for a national public health emergency. And honestly, the numbers weren't very great. And I think over the course of that index, I think that things have improved in a lot of areas. I think that we still have a ways to go, and I think most people would agree. But I don't know specifically what CDC is prepared to tackle in terms of new genetically altered or new biothreats. But I can do this more digging. Maybe you and I can have a more detailed discussion at a later date about that.
Yeah, let's do that. And as I sign off, I just want to tell Diane I was just kidding because I don't want her to rub VX on me the next time I see her.
Colin, thanks, and I should let you go first because you have questions I want to know the answer to as well. So,
other questions or comments out there?
Yes, this is Arlen Andrews from Sigma, the scientific think tank. We've been around for about 25 years since I was a fellow at OSPP back in the early 90s. And the OSPP report in 1993, I wrote the first White House endorsement of molecular nanotechnology and also mentioned 3D printing. And I've written a lot of things in the popular magazines about those things since then. Sigma recently, the last 10 years, has been doing pro bono pro bono futurism consulting for the feds. And we're still open. For those of you who haven't used us, please get in contact with me. It's Arlen Andrews at things2.com, or you can look us up on the web, www.sigmaforum.org. We've been into this, all these things for many years, and it's gratifying in one way, horrifying in another way to hear that they're finally emerging as credible threats and technologies.
Other questions or comments?
Hi, this is Dr. Robinson for Forsyth Hemp. You left out of your discussion anything associated with the quantum mechanics stuff that you did mention, and I wonder if you could, off the cuff, speculate on the ability to potentially develop small fusion reactors that could then generate directed energy weapons, or if you think that this is way too far out in the time horizon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins. I'm actually in a room full of engineers, so I'm sure once we get off the phone, we'll have some riveting discussions about that. I don't know enough about that technology to give you an answer, but based on where things are heading in other technologies and just science as a whole, you know, a lot of the things I talked about today were science fiction 20, 30, 40 years ago, and now they're reality. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me if something were eventually developed along that lines, but I don't know enough about the technology to give you a good answer today. But I can get back with you if you'd like.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, if there are no further questions or comments, I appreciate everybody dialing in, and I especially appreciate taking time out of his day and hosting the presentation. As he noted, his contact information is on his slide, so I'm sure he'd be happy to entertain questions that hit you down the road. Okay, thanks everyone.